What we're covering today: Donald Trump is having a complete meltdown, and his composure is cracking. He's discovering innovative methods to mess up his appearance completely wrong, and he harbors a fantasy that someday he won't be evaluated based on the contents of those controversial documents. Let's begin with diversions, what they appear like when fed to journalists, and what occurs when they backfire. Right now, Donald Trump is frantically trying to shift attention away from those damaging files. However, the narrative keeps growing stronger. Picture this: getting completely destroyed by someone who sounds like he's courteously requesting to speak with management. Instead, he's dismantling your complete character on live television. That's exactly what occurred to Donald Trump recently. Josh Johnson didn't arrive throwing punches. He arrived speaking softly, and somehow that made it infinitely more devastating. No anger, no fury, just precise strikes of emotionless reality that left Trump's confidence bleeding all over the studio floor. This wasn't mockery. This was a silent takedown, and he held him steady, rattled him slightly. We didn't create this situation. However, while we observe if things escalate during this conversation, Trump has been attempting everything possible to keep those documents sealed. He's even enlisted his congressional allies to assist. Mike Johnson closed down the House specifically to prevent a vote on releasing the files. What happens when someone who speaks like a computer program, slowly roasting your internet router, chooses to drag the president through controversy? You get Josh Johnson, America's most understated destroyer, approaching the microphone with all the threat of a bookkeeper and somehow exploding Donald Trump's pride without even elevating his tone. Currently, President Trump made substantial commitments about reducing medication costs once he assumed office. However, all the critics claimed he would never actually accomplish it. Well, surprise critics. His commitments just became even more ambitious. We're going to bring the medication prices down not 30 or 40%, which would be fantastic, not 50 or 60%. No, we're going to bring them down 1,000%, 600%, 500%, 1,500%, figures that aren't even considered possible to achieve. Yeah, I also believed it wouldn't be possible to reduce medication prices. If you're enjoying this content, please ensure you subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell. Josh doesn't shout, he doesn't rage, he doesn't even perspire. He simply calmly reorganizes language in a manner that makes Trump appear like someone who couldn't pass the verification test for leadership. While others attack Trump with heavy weapons, Josh arrives with precise tools and an expression of slight disappointment. And somehow it's infinitely more embarrassing. Just so you comprehend, reducing medication prices 100% means they're free. Reducing them beyond that means they'll pay you money. Like next year's wealth rankings will just be a collection of individuals with serious illnesses. All right, on the positive side, we're actually going to be bankrupting pharmaceutical companies instead of the reverse. You know, if Trump had implemented this earlier, that executive would have targeted someone else. This isn't some angry social media rant or late-evening commentary soaked in emotion. No, this is intellectual destruction by small wounds delivered with a serious expression. Johnson doesn't attack Trump with fire. He slowly removes the foundation holding Trump's persona together, one smirking comment at a time. If mockery were a fighting style, Josh would be an expert in passive-aggressive destruction. Trump actually has a strategy here. It's not to establish a limit on medication prices. That would be too simple and straightforward. We're working extremely hard currently to get other nations to raise their prices somewhat, and to get the pharmaceutical companies to implement it. And if they refuse, the pharmaceutical companies will face significant difficulties, and they have mostly agreed to it. And if the countries don't comply, then as an illustration, if it's Europe, I'll declare, that's fine. You're no longer permitted to sell automobiles. And Trump, bless his reality show heart, walked into it like it was a beauty contest. And he forgot his artificial coloring, because nothing, and we mean nothing, deflates someone who thrives on loud cheering and false confidence, like someone who calmly demonstrates that he's basically your relative on social media, with worse grammar and nuclear access. You could practically sense the energy leave the studio when Josh analyzed Trump's greatest moments. Like that occasion he looked directly at a solar eclipse, someone who attempted to market cleaning products as a health remedy, a leader who posts like a teenager with unlimited data and resentment. Johnson just sat there, expression unchanged, voice steady, presenting the absurdity like it was part of an academic presentation. He didn't even need to embellish. That's the crucial point, when your strongest comedic tool is reality. And the reality is that Donald Trump once recommended cleaning forests to prevent wildfires. You're not performing comedy, you're causing destruction. Johnson's brilliance lies in his capacity to act like he's not even attempting. He delivers punchlines like he's reading from a data sheet, and yet the jokes hit like metal furniture. Trump, someone who wants everything to be the most amazing, most incredible, nobody's ever witnessed anything comparable, suddenly became a joke so dry it required hydration, that they evacuate Congress for the season, like they discovered something unpleasant in the swimming area. However, attempting to prevent the release of the documents only makes them more intriguing. So during the past week, Trump has been launching every diversion he can at us, and I want to examine some of them to demonstrate how desperate he's becoming. Let's begin with his favorite diversion, the previous administration. The investigation that you should be discussing is, they caught the former president involved. And when Josh focused on Trump's vocabulary, oh my, there's no political manipulation that can rescue someone who believes the word oranges is the plural of origins. Johnson casually mentioned this observation, with the kind of emotionless delivery that made it feel like a technical assistance evaluation. Trump's linguistic catastrophes aren't just mistakes, they're complete grammatical crisis situations, and Josh is the crisis negotiator refusing to take the nonsense seriously. Then came the business legacy, because what's a Trump criticism without revisiting the great empire of golden bathrooms and failed ventures? Josh calmly recounted the Trump University catastrophe like it was a bedtime story gone terribly wrong. And the audience, they weren't just laughing. They were roaring with that special kind of laughter that occurs when you realize someone just spoke the truth aloud in public. It wasn't just amusing, it was therapeutic. Trump's treating Americans like a child you can influence with a reward. Allow me to demonstrate what Donald Trump is attempting here. I don't care about inappropriate behavior anymore. This wasn't comedy for applause. This was a group healing session led by someone who appears allergic to casual conversation, but is somehow perfectly designed for poetic revenge. Josh's commentary on Trump's pride might have been the most brutal section, because when you inform someone obsessed with crowd numbers that his approval ratings could fit on a small napkin, you're not just mocking him, you're rewriting his life story in comic font. And Johnson didn't flinch. He didn't celebrate. He just stated it like it was meteorological information. Dry, clinical, devastating. Trump's political approach is all noise and drama, signifying artificial coloring. Johnson, he's the calm that follows. He doesn't shout about corruption. He mentions that Trump can't spell it. He doesn't rage about controversies. He just wonders aloud if we should expect anything different from someone who thought markers could redraw weather patterns. And let's not forget the presidency itself. Josh didn't need to scream about the chaos. He simply explained it like a teacher reviewing a failed group assignment. Trump's 4 years appeared less like leadership and more like a reality program someone forgot to cancel. And Josh was there like, all right, so this participant attempted to construct a barrier with no funding and a marker map. The controversial figure died back in 2019, but not since another famous case has a deceased person released so many revelations. All right. Yesterday, footage of the government questioning him back in 2010 started circulating, and you'll never guess whose name appeared. Go ahead, guess. Have you ever spent time with Donald Trump in the presence of females under 18 years old? And then, as if that wasn't enough, Johnson turned to the first post-presidency phase, the gatherings, the social media restrictions, the legal drama that makes crime shows look like a children's cartoon. Trump went from leader of the free world to person shouting at sports equipment on weekends, and Josh just tilted his head and made the whole thing sound like a poor sequel nobody requested. There's a reason this criticism hit differently. Most critics approach Trump like he's a monster. Josh treated him like a broken appliance. It was an observation so quiet it resonated. A gentle reminder that if your entire following would purchase a branded religious text and a digital collectible from you in the same week, you're not leading a movement. You're operating a televised religious commercial with banners. And somehow that's the magic of Josh Johnson. He doesn't destroy Trump by shouting over him. He dismantles him by describing him carefully, casually, brutally. He doesn't attack up, attack down, or throw powerful punches. He just calmly observes you. And somehow that's infinitely worse. I record that as a yes. I'll be honest, I've never heard anybody claim anything other than the fifth before. But this person's so guilty, he's calling out every constitutional right he can remember, like, no. What's the one with women voting? 19, include that one too. Now this content is releasing less than 24 hours since we discovered Pam Bondi reportedly warned Trump back in May that his name was in the files multiple times. And it just so happens her next appearance was scheduled last night at a summit against human trafficking. This wasn't your typical political mockery full of shouting and sweaty outrage. This was a clinical examination with the precision of a brain surgeon and the emotional detachment of a government office employee. It was quiet, calculated, and completely devastating. See, in comedy, loud mockery is like fireworks, flashy, noisy, and over in seconds. But subtle satire, that's an explosive device. You laugh, then you pause, and then it strikes. And by the time you realize it wasn't just a joke, it's already too late. Josh's brand of satire doesn't request your attention, it takes it. While everyone else is screaming into microphones, Josh walks in with his quiet voice, delivers a 5-word observation, and casually destroys the illusion of greatness some folks spend years building. And somehow that mirror's reflection is way funnier and way more frightening than anything you could invent. If you don't care about substances or Trump's health, don't worry. He's got some true crime for you. This morning, the Trump administration releasing more than 230,000 pages of records related to the assassination of civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr. That's how bad things are for Trump. His back is against the wall so hard he's releasing more black history. This might be the worst distraction because all he did was remind us that he can declassify thousands of secret files, and people noticed. Bernice King, the daughter of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., posted this picture on social media with the caption that simply reads, "Now do those controversial files." And let's be honest, Trump thrives in chaos. He bathes in it. He's like a shark. But instead of water, it's confusion and noise that keep him alive. You scream at him, he screams louder. You insult him, he hurls 5 back. But Josh doesn't scream, he doesn't throw punches, he just leans in like he's about to ask you for your internet password, and instead drops a nuclear truth bomb disguised as a one-liner. And the next thing you're wondering how this man got the nuclear codes. It's that delicate balance between absurdity and logic, where one highlights the other until it becomes unavoidable. The audience reaction? Pure chaos, but the quiet kind. That eerie combination of stifled gasps, awkward laughter, and then the slow, dawning realization, wait a second, he's actually correct. You know, it's next-level satire when the laughter is immediately followed by contemplative silence. That's not just funny, that's surgical. That's, he just rearranged my worldview and I'm not even mad about it. Kind of funny. Trump knows the controversial figure so well. They were friends. Trump lived so close to him in Florida that he had to knock on his door and let him know he was on the offender registry. Like, that's how close they lived together. He knocked on the door, was like, "Hi, the court has ordered me to notify you that I'm in the area. I have been convicted of, a few crimes and, I left my suit jacket over here last night." So that's crazy. And here's the real kicker. This says everything about where we are as a country. The fact that it takes a soft-spoken comic to deliver what the 24/7 news cycle can't, that should tell us something. When institutions twist themselves in knots, trying to sound neutral, comedians like Josh show up and say what everyone's thinking in the most unapologetically precise way possible. While others try to shout over the noise, he whispers the truth. And somehow that whisper echoes louder than a Trump rally sound system. Trump's obsession with dominance, that's his whole brand. The bravado, the branding, the catchphrases, it's all part of the same gladiator act. But what happens when someone like Josh walks in and doesn't challenge that dominance? Doesn't engage it, just observes it from a distance like it's some rare zoo animal? That's what makes it lethal. You can't beat someone in their game if you play it. But Josh doesn't play, he narrates. It's not the volume that destroys, it's the accuracy. So we are implementing tariffs. Absolutely we are. I'm not afraid of even more expensive housing. Tariffs are off. But, okay, but that will increase the trade deficit. On again. But what about the price of breakfast? Off in the morning. On at night. But our neighbors are retaliating. Off with neighbors, on with China. We'll go to war with China. I don't give a damn. China has nuclear weapons. No tariffs on China. In fact, and Josh's aim laser precise. He didn't have to dig through scandals or scandals about scandals. He didn't need to scream about insurrections or impeachments. He just calmly pointed out that the emperor's hair is made of cotton candy, and somehow everyone finally noticed. So here we are. The Teflon dawned and vaporized him with a line that sounded like it came from a confused librarian. Trump dodged investigations. He dodged impeachment. But he didn't dodge this dry as sandpaper roast. It hit him in the only place he truly cares about, his image. And there's no legal agreement or silence money that can fix that. And if you think this was bad, oh boy. Just wait till Josh Johnson sets his sights on other prominent figures. The more Johnson spoke, the more Trump shrank. Not physically, though that would have been amazing, but in credibility, in logic, in presence. Every quiet line chipped away at the illusion. Every deadpan joke revealed another crack in the golden statue. It was like watching someone burst a balloon by whispering into it. We are so many people that came out, and they were like, look, the whole reason that we joined this movement, the whole reason that we thought Trump being in office was a good thing is because it would mean more good jobs for Americans. And look, if you genuinely believe that, then I don't. You mean no, I'm not being I'm saying like if you, and in an age of overexposure where everything is loud and obnoxious and desperate for attention, Josh Johnson's greatest weapon might be his ability to not care if you notice, which, ironically, makes you notice even more. He's not trying to trend, he's trying to tell the truth, and somehow in Trump's world of hyperbole, that makes him the most dangerous person in the room. So no, Trump wasn't ready because how do you respond to someone who sounds like your accountant, but roasts like a warrior? Johnson didn't just roast Trump. He quietly evicted him from the land of respectability. He kicked him out of the conversation without even breaking a sweat. It was surgical, effortless, and honestly kind of beautiful. Because in the end, this wasn't about political ideology. This was about clarity. About watching someone calmly point out that the emperor's clothes aren't just missing. They were never there to begin with. Josh didn't need to scream. He just needed a microphone and a little patience. And what's more devastating than that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Don't forget to smash that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell to stay updated on all our latest content.